to still look at it. So today we're going to talk about ordering whole numbers and decimals. Yesterday we just did decimals where we said like 0.5 or 5 and 102 thousandths. Is that greater than or less than to 502? So 5,020 10 thousandths. What is that? Greater than, less than, or equal to? What do you think, Lauren? Equal to. Why is that equal to?
0 at the end doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, these don't mean anything. You can keep adding all day long. They're still going to be equal. And that's only at the end if this number here is the same after the decimal. Some of us struggled on that on our homework yesterday. And I know you didn't, but we didn't look at the whole number. Remember, we got to go look from our left to right on this one. Looking at your math in my world today, the table shows the cost to build 3 National Football League stadiums. Order the cost from greatest. What do we say greatest meant again? Another word for it. Bigger number. To the least. And what's the least? The smaller number. So we're looking at the greatest number to the biggest number to the smallest number. So what we have these 3 numbers here we're doing that with. So if we look at the first digit right here, this is the first set of digits we want to look at. Which one is the largest? A 3 or a 4? A 4. So this is going to be our largest number right there because the others have a 3 on it. So we're going to write 430 is our biggest. So that's our first one, comma. Now, these are both 3s, so we can't tell from there. So we got to look at this next number. So and remember this one.
Miss Renee, you come to the office, please.
And this one we've used up. So we're going to use 6 or a 5. Which one is largest, the 6 or the 5? Asher? The 6. So 364 and 2/10 is our next. And then the last one, of course, is 350 is the smallest of those. So to order them, because that's what we have to do, that's our whole thing today, is ordering them. It's not seeing if it's greater than or less than. It's putting them in the order of what they ask you to put it into. Okay, get some paper towels. All right, so another way is you can use a number line. If we look at 430 or 364 and 2/10, we'd put it about about right here probably. And if we look at the next number over here, which is 430, we'd probably put it about right here. And then we have 350, so that's way over here. So you can see this is the smallest, which we already said, check, smallest. Largest, this one, check. And then the middle one goes in the middle. All right. Anybody have any questions on that part? It's pretty easy as far as that part's concerned. Look at the back side now. Flip it over. 4 trees in a state forest had heights of 22. How do you say that? 22 and what? Asher? All right, so this is 22 and 6,500. How do you say that next one? 23 and what, Ethan? 23 and 8,000 is good. Now remember, this 0 doesn't technically have to be there. And you say that 23 and 8/10, really. Well, how do you say this one right here? It's pretty easy. Casey? 22, that's all you got to say on that one. And this one right here, how do you say that one? Mikey, how do you say that one?
23.
Good, now we're starting to get it. 23 and 2,500. Now it says here to annex a 0 means to add a 0 at the end of the number. And that's what they did right here is they annexed. They put a 0 at the end of it just because notice it wasn't like that right here. So they added a 0 so that they all had equal amount of digits at the end. So looking at this line of numbers right here, can we tell which one is the largest? I'm sorry, we're putting it from smallest to greatest now. So can we tell which one's the smallest by looking at this first row of numbers? No, because they're all what? 2s. Can we tell which one's the smallest by looking at this line of numbers? We can narrow it down, though, to which numbers? The 22, right? So now we got to look at this number here. Can we tell which one's the smallest by looking at this one? Holly? 22 is the smallest. So wouldn't that make sense to say that the next smallest is the other 22? So 22 and 65 hundredths. Okay, and now we've got the 22s out of the way. Now we got to deal with these 23s. So they're both 23, so we're not going to look at these numbers here. We got to look at this number right here. Which one is, remember, we're doing the smaller of the two right now. So which one's smaller of those two? How many of you think it's 23 and 8/10? Now remember, this was 23 and 80 hundredths because we added that 0 in there. So 23 and 25 hundredths. So which one is smaller by looking at that? Colton. 23 and 25 hundredths is that. And then, of course, the largest one is 2380. Remember, you can add those zeros to it like we did here because this original one only had a 0.8 or 8/10. If we add a 0, it matches all these now, and we can tell the size of those. Let's look down here at the guided practice. It does when we're lining them up. You just add zeros to make them. There's going to be a couple more you'll see here. All right, so we're going to order these from smallest to biggest. So which one is the smallest? So now notice these aren't lined up all pretty like this up here. Now you can do that if you want. You don't have to. It might make it easier for you, but can we tell by looking at this 5, 6, 5, 6, which one's the smallest? But we can narrow it down to which number? The what? With the 5s, right? The 5. So it's going to be one of these two is going to be the smallest. So can we look at those and see which one is the smallest? What do you think, Raymond? 56 and 7/10 or 59? 56 and 7/10 is our smallest. Yes, cross it out. So what's the next smallest? It's pretty easy to tell. Asher? 59 is the next. All right, so we have the 59 done. Now we just have these two 64s. 64, 64. So now the key number is going to be looking at which one is smaller now, a 3 or a 5. Colton? A 3. So 64 and 3/10. And of course, our last one is 64 and 5/10. Clear as mud? Okay. Rainfall. This is right up Colton's alley right here of rainfall. We got to order it from least, the smallest to the greatest. So this is a little bit tougher. What I would suggest doing is writing all these out over here when they have a bunch of zeros because it's a little tougher to see those like that. Now it's going to make it a little bit easier to see. Can we tell by looking at a 0? No, forget about that. Can we tell which one's the smallest by looking at those numbers? Which number is the smallest out of that line? The 0. So we're going to go ahead and put 0.09 or 0 and 9 hundredths is our smallest. Get rid of that guy. Get rid of that guy. Can we tell now out of these numbers which one's the next smallest? Emma? Yes, 24 hundredths is our next one. Get rid of it. Can we tell on this now which one is the smallest out of these two left over, the 63 and the 76? Casey, what do you think? The smaller. Which one's the smaller of the? Yep, 63. And then finally we have 0.76. And that's, again, smaller to the biggest. This lesson is probably one of the tougher ones because it's decimals. It's not like you just have 22, 28, 40. I mean, decimals are a little bit tougher. Now here's where I told Holly where the zeros don't matter, where we're going to have to work it in now. I would line these up, Holly. I would say, well, 8, line up your decimals. 8.9 or 8 9/10, 8 and 59 hundredths. Notice I got my decimals lined up, my whole numbers lined up. 8 and 705 thousandths. Decimals are still lined up. And then 8 and 5 hundredths. Now notice all of them are lined up. Now here's what you got to do. What do you guys think we got to do? What's our longest number up, or not the biggest? Which one's the longest number? Ireland. 8 and 700 and thousands. Yeah. So let's just slap a 0 on all these others to make these have 3 numbers at the end of them. That's where I said the zeros here. It's still the same number. We're just putting those extra endings on there. It's still worth the exact same. So now, can we tell which one is the smallest by looking at that line of numbers? What about this line of numbers? We can definitely tell now. So what's the smallest? Go ahead, Asher. Yeah, or we can just say 8. The original number was this one right here, 8 and 500s. All right, so that one's gone. Which one's the next smallest, Gavin? You say 705, the 8? Yeah. 8 and 705 thousandths. Nope, that ain't right. You're right. I think I heard you say 590, right? Yeah, you said that. What's the next one? What's the next one? Ireland again. There you go. That one's next. And of course, our biggest one is 8 and 9/10. You notice I took the 0 back off because originally it didn't have it on it. It doesn't matter. You could have written it that way and I would have still counted it right. So don't worry about that. All right. The lengths of insects in centimeters are, okay, I'm going to go ahead and write these out again. I'm going to say 1 and 35 hundredths. Notice my 0, I'm lining my decimal up like that. 1 decimal 48 hundredths and 1 decimal 8. What do I want to put in place of that spot that's empty? Ray? I want to put a 0 right here, and I'm going to put a 0 right there because it's empty. I want those numbers all to have something in it so I can tell the difference now. So now, can I tell the difference by looking at these? Which one's the smallest? Obviously, which one's the smallest? I think of money on this one. Yeah, I'd say 0.9 or 9/10 is the smallest. What's their next one now? Can we tell by looking at these ones? Can we? No, we got to look at these numbers here now. 3, 4, or 8. Which one's the smallest? 1 and 35 hundredths. Yeah, get rid of that guy. Which one's the smaller of these two? 1 and 48 hundredths, and then we have 1.8 or 1 and 8/10 now. That's how we line those up in order. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, what I'm gonna have you guys do, I'm gonna give you guys about 5. I'll give you 10 minutes, and I only want you to do, because we're gonna go over this, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. But notice you're putting it from the smallest to the biggest. All right. You guys can work with a partner real quick, and we'll go over this in a second. I'll be right back. Forward here. All right. So the cost of cell phones. I wish that was the cost of a cell phone.
Mine's $25.
I think my cell phone I'm paying like $25 a month for like 2 years for this iPhone XR. So what is the small? Now dollars are easy to look at. When they slap I don't know why it is when they slap a dollar sign, or in front of something, it makes it easier to see. I guess because there's change, we're familiar with it. But which one of these is the smallest by looking at the dollars there, Emma? The first one, $98.75 is the smallest. Get rid of it. What's the next smallest out of those? Brighton? $105.99 is the next one. And of course, the last one is $114.99 by process of elimination. How many of you had that right? Raise your hand. 6, 7, 8 of you. That's it. Oh, the rest of you just too tired to raise your hand, I guess. All right. Number 6, temperatures. All right. So there's a bunch of different numbers here, and I might look at it and say, okay, this is kind of hard to see. So what I'm going to do is line these up. Say 106.3 degrees. Again, decimal points. I'm putting decimal points here because there's 4 numbers. So I'm going to put 99.8. I'm going to put 101.1 and 110.5. Now they're all lined up all pretty. So which one's the smallest? It's easy to tell, right? What is it, Gavin? The what? I can't hear you. We're on number 6. Smallest. That's okay. Now, how many of you agree that 106.3 is the smallest out of those 3? Does anybody have another one that they think is smaller of those? What do we have, Emma? 99.8 or 99.8. That is the smallest one because when you got it lined up here, you can see. Now we have 106, 101, and 110. Which one's the next smallest out of all of those, Maddie? 101.1 degrees. Now, get rid of that guy. Which one's the next smallest one, Laura? 106.3, yes, ma'am. And then, of course, process of elimination, 110.5 is our next one. Good job. Light years. Now, these all have, looks like 2 digits. So these ought to be pretty easy to look at. Let's look at these first. 4, 6, 4, and 7. Colton, which one's the smallest out of those? The first one. Yeah, we look at 4.2, 4.3. So there's 4.2 or 4 and 2/10. What's the next smallest one? Maddie? 4 and 3/10. Cross that out. Now we have 6.0 and 7 and 7/10. Holly? 6 and 0 are just 6. Yeah. And then, of course, process of elimination, we have 7 and 7/10 is our last one. Heights of buildings in meters. Okay, well, I'm going to line these up so I can see these a little bit better. There's a lot of numbers there. 419 and 7/10, 346 and 5/10, 178 and 3/10, 527 and 3/10. All right, so can we tell by looking at these numbers right here which one's the smallest, Colton? Which one's the smallest? How about that? 178 and 3/10 is our smallest. What's the next smallest, Emma? 346.5. Good. Cross it out. Which one's the next smallest after that one, Emily? Emmeline, sorry. Out of these two right here, which one? Good. 419 and 7/10. And then our last one is 527 and 3/10. Pretty easy. Last one right here. All right, we have a 4, 3, 3, 4. Which one is the smallest by looking at these? Brighton, give me the first one. 3 and 4/10. Cross it out. Holly, which one's the next? 3. I don't know. I mix it up. You don't just put a comma between it and you're good to go. It doesn't matter. So we got 3, 4, 3, 7. All right. Now what's the next one, Maddie? 4 and 2/10. And then the last one is what? If you say it correctly. Asher Owens. What's the last one? How do you say that? Not 4.9. 4 and 9/10. There you go. Good. I think honestly, you understand This one right here is going to be your toughest problem on your homework is number 4. Every year I've ever given this is the hardest. But if you line up your decimal points, you won't have trouble with this. But you have to line them up like we did here in order to get this one, because it's going to be, look at this one here too is going to be tough. Okay, no. All right, so your homework today is right here, numbers 1 through 8. When you're finished, turn it in the math box. Those of you at home, turn it in to me whenever you get back. That'd be, I guess, Sailor, that'd be you. So the worksheet is over there, and